Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Old Man Ranting from the Kitchen. Today's show is something of interest to everybody about the safeness of our neighborhoods. And we're going to be looking at Tacoma's safety areas and non-safe areas as the city of Tacoma battles with the crime, which is really, in the last year, skyrocketed. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody for the wonderful emails talking about the different shows that we've had on The Old Man Ranting from the Kitchen in the previous year. So thank you so much for those emails. And I really do appreciate hearing from you. If you're interested in our show, by the way, and want to become a part of the show, here's how you do it. You just simply send us an email. That's at Keeba, Keeba Agency, at gmail.com. That's Keeba Agency at gmail.com. And we'll get a hold of you, and you can ask questions, or if you have ideas for content for the show, we'll be excited to hear from you. So thank you very much. Got great things on the show today to talk about that everybody should be starting a conversation over. And that's the crime going on in the city of Tacoma. Now, about, I'd say a year and a half ago, I had the opportunity to meet the new chief of police, Chief Moore, who has taken over the Tacoma area as the acting chief. And I was very impressed with him. He was a very great fellow to talk with. He had a drive in his voice of wanting to bring Tacoma back to safety in the streets, to give the opportunity for business to kind of pick up their boots, and get started back into safe and protected areas by police officers that are really there to protect and serve. But, it's been a tough shuffle for police departments and police agencies to operate after the CHOPS incident in Seattle, and unfortunately the city was taken over by a bunch of what I call city terrorists. And what a mark they've left on the city of Tacoma. Now that many of those individuals have marched into Tacoma, they are hiding in homeless centers along the streets. They're breaking into businesses. The crime rate in Tacoma, as it has been reported just recently in the November 1st council meeting, is a question that needs to be answered. What is going on and what will be happening in the future? Now, if you've watched the news media, the major media, they've proclaimed that the targeted areas in Tacoma, which the police chief and his police technical units have been patrolling and really cleaning up, have dropped considerably in the crime rate. They're talking about in targeted areas as much as 36% over last year. And this has been quite exciting because it shows that the police departments are healing from the disaster of non-use of violence when arresting people. I guess I shouldn't use the word violence. I should use the word force of, well, golly, then we'd have to have a dictionary out and we'd have to look at the two aspects of it. According to the Seattle Police Department and the riots that happened in CHOPS, Black Lives Matter and those that produced that particular theory in our country had some really good points. The Floyd killing, of course, where the police officer obviously, without a doubt, murdered Floyd. There's no doubt. Of course, you've probably heard my podcast where I've talked about this issue and said, now, wait a minute. Hold on a second. First of all, let's break this story down into two pieces. Piece number one, Floyd was a criminal with a record as long as his left arm, and he was still busy as an entrepreneur in criminal activities. Now, let's look at the other side. The way he was apprehended and the procedures they used should not have been used. They actually, as far as I'm concerned, the officer ended the life of Floyd. Now, yes, this is something to be upset about. Yes, we have had racial problems ever since I can remember. I can remember Tacoma in 1968 when they had riots. I believe it was in 68. And they had riots on the streets up in the predominantly black area of Tacoma. And it was a horrifying thing to see. I can remember the freeway being closed off and emergency units working diligently hard to get everything under control. Now, it was a short riot. It didn't last long. There was property damage. But the communities healed and came back together and worked together to get these problems of race discrimination under control. I admired the different groups and organizations that have been doing this. I have personally had the opportunity to talk with, as I've mentioned before, many business people in different communities in Tacoma that have done a wonderful job extending a helping hand up to the citizens of both sides, the African American citizen and the regular white citizen. Now, let me underline something if I can. I hate titles. I'll be honest with you. I raise my kids not to see color. It's as simple as that. They don't. We see the individual. We see the creation of what the Lord has created in men and women. The color of the skin has nothing to do, as far as I'm concerned, with their actions or reactions. Everybody is a human being. Everybody has rights under the Constitution and Bill of Rights in this great country. Everybody should have the right to find happiness, to build that home or the dreams of maybe their entrepreneurship that they want to accomplish. And there shouldn't be terroristic activities on either side of the white or black fence that is allowed to tear our cities and communities apart. CHOPS was a fine example of a terrorist organization infiltrating protesters and, as far as I'm concerned, mixing the batter to make the cake bake but not raise the community up. The cake turned out to be tasteless, awful, hard on businesses, black businesses and white business owners. They victimized, and there was no reason for this. Now, the whole thing came out that police is rough. The police departments are rough. They are not trained properly on how to apprehend. They use too much force, legal force, and they shouldn't be allowed to do so. So what do? The politicians get together and they cut off the funding. And we've all heard about this situation. Now the worm's turning and funding is starting to be put back into the budgets for police departments. But while this transitionary period has been going on, crime in cities like Tacoma and University Place and different areas, as per the records that we see now, are skyrocketing. All of a sudden, we have gang organizations, and everybody says to me, well, how do you know it's a gang organization? Well, it's very simple. Look at the side of the freeways, telephone poles, and buildings that have graffiti on it, which are the gangs, cutting up their turf, saying, this is our neighborhood, you'll stay out. This is all showing up every day, especially in the city of Tacoma. As you drive down from 512 to I-5 headed to Tacoma, the graffiti is monstrous. It gets painted out. Bingo. It's right back within a few days. And how they do it, I don't know. These gangs are very proficient at marking their territory. It's so bad now that even people are considering, well, I don't know if I want to shop like at big malls such as the Tacoma Mall or even the smaller malls or Walmart or Target, because nationwide crime has picked up to the point whereas people under pressure are doing stupid things. We've had more shootings and killings than in schools, shopping centers, business offices, streets, and violence in communities than I've ever seen in the 73 years that I've lived on this earth. I cannot believe when I turn on my computer and go to the news section for Tacoma or Pierce County and somebody else has either shot somebody, they have had road rage where guns were used, or they have smash and dashes with businesses where people are shot and merchandise is removed. I could not believe it. Now, the city of Tacoma, I'm looking at a map right now, and they have blue spots on this map to tell you the areas that are criminally, operated by the criminals as far as we can tell. And it's absolutely scary. Up and down 19th Street in Tacoma is not a good place to go or be. Isn't that something? When you stop and think about it, South Tacoma area has got a high crime rate. You look at Pacific Avenue down at 46th Street and in that area, high crime rate. It is non-going. If you go south, east, west, or north, the crime rate in the city of Tacoma is just gone bananas. Now, just recently on the meeting for the council for the city of Tacoma, there was a letter that was written by the police union, number 6, and, they weren't too happy with the chief of police. They said that Chief Moore had given out impressions that the officers were really having an effect on crime and lowering crime by large percentages. Well, yeah, they are. But the rub came, according to the union, that the areas that they're coming up with reduced crime was a targeted small area, which only number 1 priority calls were responded to immediately in those particular areas. So naturally, you're not looking at all of Tacoma. You're looking at a targeted area, and that's what the union was upset about. And they want to know when we're going to get facts that are not in statistics that are not misleading. These statistics do not show the overall problem with crime from Tacoma all the way back down into areas such as University Place and different areas. Now, Tacoma, if is so busy trying to corral crime and have done such a wonderful job, how come we have some other problems that keep coming up? One of those problems is that the business people down on Pacific Avenue and different avenues up in Yakima, they're all upset. We've got homeless people, we've got drug problems, crime, and it's a mayhem of situations which drive business out. Now, when you're driving the business out because people are not sure that the safety of getting out of their car is a good idea in those areas, then you've got the professional criminals that are just crashing into buildings with cars and doing absolute break-in and enters, removing merchandise by the thousands of dollars, and destroying businesses. Business people in these different areas want to know why the police department isn't doing something. Why are they not enforcing the law in these areas? Is it because we're too short on police officers? I don't know. I don't know how many officers short they are in the city of Tacoma. I'm sure they're probably hiring more officers. I think that Chief Moore wanted to, in the first attempt, to get the police officers out on the streets to calm down different areas, to get them to relax about, the cops are all over the place, they're dirty dogs, just because of the hatred, misinformation, and garbage that has continuously gone on with political money allocations for police protection. And when I say police protection, that's updating equipment, that's getting bulletproof vests, cameras, and a host of other things that are needed, plus more manpower. Now, I have to salute somebody that's young that's ready to become a police officer, because when talking to some of the older officers that have been on the line for a while, the biggest thing they'll say, Bill, we've got a target put on our back. And the people that should be backing us up, the people that should be at the council and different areas that are really our bosses that should have our backs, are not. They're playing political games. They're playing, let's not be too tough on these people. Let's put resource people in the cars. Let's change the schedule around because, Bill, police officers are too rough on criminals. The other excuse they use, and I shouldn't say excuse, but because I'm sure they have statistics that prove that I'm probably all wrong, mental illness has increased. Well, sure it has. State of Washington has okayed recreational drugs. Oh, you go out and smoke some buds, man. Well, I don't think that helps either. I really don't, for some strange reason. I think that you're seeing more pills, China White, coming into the area, causing deaths, causing the crime syndicates, these small little independent syndicates that are operating and financing these gangs that are hitting the streets harder than ever before. And the influence of these drugs, especially on areas where the opportunity for young people is not there. And there's areas in the city of Tacoma that is a war zone because there is no opportunity. If you're a young man or young woman, you're going to end up in the gangs. One way or another, the gangs are going to want to bring you aboard. Yeah, because they want to be your family. And they're tearing up the city of Tacoma. Crimes, can you imagine? And I have a hard time even thinking about this. I have seen on television, and I'm sure you have too, where criminals, in one particular case, unloaded I don't know how many rounds into the side of a house and injuring a girl that was asleep in her bed, shot her in the leg, as they're, I guess, upset with somebody in that home and decided to seek revenge. So criminals or gang organizations, which are all a bunch of terrorists, as far as I'm concerned, cowards, open up fire on individuals. What does this do to a community? The senior citizens in these communities have had a tough enough time with all the pandemic and all the other problems that have happened. They've had a bad time. They're to build the community. But as long as you have these people that are intending to do nothing but rob, murder, kill, and steal, you're not going to have a good community to live in. That's just the simple facts. The city of Tacoma was very upset, naturally, over some of the opportunities that have gone by the wayside because of lack of financing. Money's tight, let's face it. It's even affected the communities. It's affected the cities. But it will continue to grow to be a problem for the business and the entrepreneurs because they're being driven out of the area. And when you drive them out, okay, you destroy your neighborhood, number one, because now there's just empty buildings that are being spray painted and, taken care of by the graffiti experts. The terrorists, as far as I'm concerned, gangs move right in and take those individual areas and turn them into, I don't know how to describe it. It's just terrible. Okay, those people that are driven out of those areas and those businesses that have to leave, when they leave, they stop paying taxes. Taxes mean we have less money to operate with. We have less money for police protection. But I cannot blame them when they have a fear of coming to work and maybe not going home. I think it's very evident of the fear in the marijuana store that was, and I know you can't use the word marijuana, it's not politically correct, but pot shop where a young man was gunned down. Okay, I am telling you that this, even though we're going to have the violence, no matter what, the number of the violence and the types of violence can be slowed down considerably by, number one, getting people together, having conversations, watching out for each other, watching out for police officers and helping them out. Not standing out in the street saying, oh, you're too forceful, you're guerrillas, you're out to kill us, and a whole bunch of premeditated garbage that is put together by people that want to keep crime rolling in our streets. Now, when you have a crime going on, it's kind of like taking a rock and going to the lake edge of a very smooth lake. There's just no ripples. And then you take that rock and you throw it down. In other words, as that rock hits the water, waves release and go in different directions. That's what's happening in the city of Tacoma. As that rock hits, the rock being trying to have law and order, the council trying to find more budget money to get more research going, to build resources to fight crime, then the criminals are smart enough, well, the heat's on, so we'll just move out. We'll move a little bit further. I think you've seen it in Kent. I know you've seen it in Auburn. Covington is covered off and on with criminal activity all the time now. These people are moving in. They're going to be moving into Puyallup. They'll be moving into Sumner, South Hill. Just give them time. A lot of these individuals that I'm talking about also impregnate themselves into homeless camps. That's where they hide out so they won't be spotted by cops, or they can hide. And how are we going to find them? Well, you're not. And while they're there, they're going to be selling their dope and causing more problems, domestic and otherwise, in criminal activities, even in the homeless camps, because that's the way the criminal operates and thinks. That's the army that he builds. And what are you going to do? Well, there again, it's really basically up to the individuals that run our government, the people that we vote in. And with the leadership capability, I think it's very interesting. We've got a crime rate in neighborhoods in annual yearly reports that have just skyrocketed in the last couple of years. They just keep on going up and up and up. And it's terribly scary to see smaller communities affected by what's going on. Seattle, it's a ripple effect to hit Tacoma. It'll be a ripple effect from Tacoma down. I don't know. I'm scared for my kids and my grandkids. It is a terrible time. Everyone now is analyzing the gun situation, saying, well, if we take the guns off the streets, that will eliminate the crime and domestic violence. News break. If you think that these gangs, the Crips, the Bloods, and the rest of them, these cowards, are going to give up their guns, ammunition, and all their tools to commit crime, you need to get a breath of fresh air, because no, they are not. Every law-abiding citizen could give up all their guns, shut down the gun stores, and the crime rate, I believe, and I hope I'm wrong, would increase probably threefold over in a very short period of time. Because it's one thing that a criminal likes, and that's no opposition. I know, it sounds strange, doesn't it? Actual criminal is a coward. Why do they hit at night? Why do they work in different areas of the city where senior citizens are at? Because they know it's easy pickings. They've got money. Maybe they got a little Social Security money coming in. Why not wait and hit those areas? This is an epidemic. This is a pandemic epidemic called crime, and we need to stop it. The city of Tacoma is simply asking for this. They just want the actual statistics shown. What do the police officers want? They want the target off their back. They want the people that they work for to back them so that they can do a job in our communities. I imagine it'd be very disheartening to arrest somebody that pulled a gun on somebody, and by the time you got the paperwork and got them into the holding cell and you're ready to go home and the paperwork's completed and you wave at them as they're walking down the street, we need the teeth of the law put back in the mouth of the law. We need to balance it out again. Yeah. Maybe the prosecutors may be, under the gun politically. Who knows? There is a lot of pressure. A lot of groups and different organizations like Black Lives Matter and all the other different organizations that every time there's a shooting, a robbery, or a major crime yells police brutality. Maybe we need to start looking at criminal brutality instead. Maybe then we'll have a better day. Well, this kind of covers what I wanted to talk about today on This Old Man Ranting from the Kitchen. This is our first live show. We have not done a live show before. Most of our shows you'll find on your favorite podcast program, such as iHeartRadio. And I stop and think, because every time I think of Spotify, I think of, wow, Spotify. We're on Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. So really enjoy the art of podcast listening and tune us in. Check us out. We have shows such as our good friend, Dr. Troy Munson, Revealing Wholeness. He comes on and talks about nutrition and chiropractic health care for the family. We have The Old Man Ranting from the Kitchen, which is, just me sitting here thinking, we got to get a conversation started. We have The Disruptors with Bill and Candace. It's a great show. It's coming back this season with more business information on how to run your business, how to get businesses going. And we talk about all facets of business. That's The Disruptors with Bill and Candace. New shows are coming on all the time in the Disruptors Podcast Network. So I'd like to thank you once again, and I close all my shows with simply this. This is a thought that I think should work out very well for us. And that's if we keep a clear, positive thought in our minds. That's right, to obtain goals, to take action, to make our communities better, and love in our hearts for one another, you'll always keep a smiling.